Okay, class, we're about to start lesson 6, histograms. It says, like line plots, histograms display frequencies, but they do so in a very different way. Consider the following example. Example 1. Graham is a veterinarian. Last week he decided to track client appointments for spring shots. The following table and histogram represent Graham is a veterinarian. Last week, he decided to track client appointments for spring shots. The following table in histogram represents his results. Okay, as you see here on the histogram, it has the values here on the left side of the graph, and at the bottom it has the dates. Now, these are formally called, at the bottom is called the horizontal axis, and this here on the left-hand side is the vertical axis. And sometimes we use this in algebra as the x and y axis. Okay, now the histogram above on the right has two axes, a vertical axis or y axis, represent numbers of appointments, and a horizontal axis, also called an x axis, that has increments representing the weeks. The areas of each bar represents the number of appointments for the week. Thus, you can see not only how many appointments were in any given week, but also how the frequency of appointments changed over the weeks in the chart. Finally, histograms can also be used to show percentages. If we alter the histogram about Graham's appointments so that each bar represents the percent of total appointments each week, it would look like the one on the right. Because the percentages add up to 100%, the areas of all the bars add up to 100. Okay, now we come here to the actual problems. Now, again, like I told you all I think it was 2 lessons ago, sometimes some of my copies do not come out that well, so you will need your book just in case. So just to let you all know, we're on pages 294 and 295. We just turned to page 295 here with the example 2 at the top. It says, example 2, what percent of appointments for spring shots occurred during the first 2 weeks of March? You can figure this out by adding the percentages for those weeks. You can approximate based on the histogram. For March 1 through 7, about 2%. For March 8 through 14, about 5%. So if we look here, so this is March 1 through 7. That's about 2%. It's actually a little over 2%, but we round it as 2%. And then March 8th, if you look here, is almost at the 5% mark. It's just slightly below it, so we'll round it up to 5%. So then that would take it with the 2 and the 5%. That would make it approximately 7% of appointments for spring shots occurred during those 2 weeks. Now, just like in the previous lesson, we only had 4 problems we had to complete, and we only have 4 problems to complete for this lesson. It's just that it's a lot of writing in the graphs. So now, for practice 6A, it says choose the histogram that matches each frequency table. Use choices A through D below for both questions 1 and 2. Josephina runs a retail business. She posted a coupon to a social media site from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The table shows how many people downloaded or printed the coupon. So it gives you the time and how many coupons were downloaded. So what they want now is for you to pick the graph that matches this. So if you look here, 9 a.m. is the start. So we would look here, this would be 9 a.m., then 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So with that being said, so this is our 9 a.m., so this would be 9 a.m. So we'll look at 30. Now, if you look here, I may have to expand this. Let me make this a little bigger. Yeah. Okay, so I made this a little bigger. So we want this first bar to be up to 30. So if you look here, this first bar is up to 30. is actually the only one that's up to 30, but we can check the rest. At 10 a.m., it's about 56, which is almost 60. 11 is 80, and so on. So that would be C. So our answer here for problem number 1 would be C. So problem number 1 would be C. So problem number 2, it says Mike administered a skills assessment to his employees. Possible scores on the skill assessment range from 200 to 1800. The following table shows how his employees performed on the assessment. So we look here, our first value should be 15. So anything that's 20 or higher for our first value, we would not use. So that would be A and C. So now we're just looking at B and D. So now, for B and D, they look about the same as far as 15. So our next value is 22, which means that the next bar is slightly over 20. Both of them is slightly over 20. So the next would be 35. So the third one should be in the middle between, it should be actually closer to 40 than it is to 20. So if you look here, this bar is closer to 40 than it is to 20, but this bar here is about equal distance from 40 to 20. So our answer here would actually this bar here is a little bit lower, so it's actually a little bit closer to 20. So our answer here would be D for number 2. So number 2 would be D. So now we move down to problems 3 and 4. Problem 3, it says choose the one best answer to each question. So question 3 refers to the following histogram and information. Influenza or flu season in the United States tends to last from fall through spring. So number 3, approximately what percentage of flu cases was reported to the CDC during the 2012-2013 season during the time period December 9th to January 5th. So December 9th to January 5th will be about here. December 9th to January 5th. So if we look here, we will have to add those values. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 bars here. So it'll be these 4 bars. So now let's add them. So this is number 3. So we look here. So we start here at this December 9th. That is approximately 8 plus this next bar, what I would say would be about 9. And then the next bar would be about 9 too, because they're about the same. And then the next bar, which would be the last bar, is close to 10. So now when we add these up, we add 8 plus 9, which is 17, plus 9 is 26, plus 10 is 36. So this would be about 36%. So now your answer may be a little off from my answer, but your answer should be at 36% or very close, but because remember, we want the one best answer. So your answer here for number 3 would be C. So your answer is 36%, but it's C. And I stand corrected. I said there would be 4 problems, but there were actually only 3. And we are done, and I will post this to YouTube, and have a wonderful day.